Hello buddy, yeah, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quake Match gameplay. This time around we are on the map Rakdu Ridge, playing as the forces of the Empire against the forces of the High Elves. And for this match I wanted to do a bit more of a elite rushing build. Usually when I play against High Elves I try to go more wide. Oftentimes I'll bring some sort of artillery, maybe mortars. Oftentimes of course the Hammer of the Witches, just because it's great for counter-battering the Elves' elite troops and murderizing their cavalry. But I figured, you know what, let's try to just blitz them with a horde of demigryphs, Volkmar, and see what happens. So for my lord, running with Volkmar. Now, Volkmar is arguably very strong against High Elves. He has some very, very good benefits to him, as well as some downsides here. For one, he's very tanky. He has a lot of HP, he has a lot of armor. He does have 40% magic resist, which synergizes with his 15% missile resist to make him very beefy against Sisters of Avalorn, who would really be the only High Elf missile unit that could put an armored single entity into the dirt fast. He does also inflict magic damage and is a chariot, so that makes him good against some of the more physically resistant infantry, such as, for example, Phoenix Guard. And of course, he brings the full slew of battle prayers. He's got Grand Shield of Faith, he's got the Grand Hammer of Sigmar, Banishment bound to the Volkswagen, of course, Jade Griffin for the heals, making him even tankier, and Grand Soulfire, which allows him to really mess up a lot of troops if they try to surround him. That said, he does have a few downsides here. Most notably, he does fire damage, which, for those of you who don't know, garbage versus High Elves, it's something you usually want to avoid if you at all can, because Dragon Princes as well as Phoenixes just laugh that off. And it's one of the reasons, in my opinion, you don't want to bring fire damage if you can avoid it. But I figure Volkmar's not here to counter those units anyway, and he's just here to mulch the infantry, and for that, it doesn't really matter. Alongside him, we do have a Jade Wizard providing some healing as well as some potential nukage. I actually brought a Dwellers Below here. It's still a pretty potent spell, nowhere near as OP as it used to be, but still very powerful. Over here, we can see a Lithanar using his Moonbow to try to snipe down Volkmar. This is a huge misplay, actually, because Moonbow does... It's a magic missile, so it counts as a missile attack, and it's magical. So, yeah, that 55% resistance is kicking in, and Volkmar laughs it off. But Jade Wizard, they're going to be providing heals, really for the Demi-Blob more so than Volkmar. That's why I didn't bring Regrowth, because I figured he's going to heal himself. And Dwellers Below to nuke blobs of elite infantry. And the front line's dirt cheap. Some swordsmen, some spearmen, just to get more width. Sigmar Sons anchoring things in the center. They'll beat down High Elf spears and bog down everything else for a while. And then a massive cavalry contingent. We've got 2 Demigryph Knights, a vanilla variant. These guys have shields, they have immense melee stats, and they can basically beat down everything except Fireborn or some of the dragons in 1v1, so that's pretty good. I guess Phoenix Guard, you don't want any age 1v1, but they'll really run amok against High Elf infantry. They're very, very powerful. Can tank a lot with their 125 armor. And then we do have an anti-large core here with 2 halberds as well as an Empire Captain with Hold the Line. So he'll be providing that extra leadership as well as melee defense. Worth mentioning, I did bring Benediction on Volkmar as well. Something I see a lot of people don't do is bring this ability, but 8 leadership matters a lot on Empire's state troops, as well as their cavalry, because Empire's weakness tends to be, even their elites don't have great leadership. Now for my opponent, he decided to go with the Lithanar. So Lithanar is being cheeky out here at the front, getting some pot shots with his Moonbow as well as with just his normal chip damage, whittling down my troops, doing quite a number on the spearmen, but I see a Lithanar and I decide to hide my Demigryphs. I do not want Demigryphs taking fire, and so we're shifting them all into the woods here to go around this flank, because I really do not want to be losing Demigryph models before lines meet. Now for my opponent though, his build is something insane. It is a mass Daka and then some. Front line here composed of spears, only 3 units of them though, just token holding force, backed by 4 Lothran Sea Guard, 5 archers, and then just a massive line of firepower. So really it's 9 archer units and then 2 bolt throwers behind that. So probably there to counteract, say if I'd brought a cannon. These guys are chevron up a bit, so they'd be better in a counter battery role. And with these hills on a map like Rakdu Ridge, they'd actually probably perform pretty well if I'd brought cannons, because the cannons will have a much harder time finding an arc. Now, as it stands, they're going to be chipping away at Volkmar, who can tank it a good amount. He's got 100 armor, which doesn't matter too much, but he's got a lot of HP, so he can kind of tank those. There he takes a hit from a Lithanar to lose about 400 HP. There is a Lore of Lightcaster here as well. She's got the Net, Baroness Time Warp, as well as Frost Protection. All very good spells. Can help your front line hold better, can prevent elite cavalry, or even cavalry in general, just from getting into the back line. And there are some Illyrian Reavers and Silver Helms in the back to provide some additional mass. But, of course, my build is kind of tactless, so we're just rushing forward. It's a bit of a Zerg rush here. I am sneaking my cavalry through the woods. I really do not want to be taking that enemy missile fire. And now we are going to see those High Elves darkening the sky with their missile play and just showering my troops with a volley of arrows. And it's really some pretty brutal stuff. Fortunately, my opponent's focus fire here is almost entirely focused on Volkmar. So Volkmar, they takes quite a beating. Some of the fire does now start shifting towards the swordsman, but just look at that firepower, just overwhelming for Volkmar. He takes another hit there from Elithanar. He's lost about half his HP by now. Net is going down, Net of Mintok hitting him hard, and I don't have anything to really beef him up with here, so he's going to start taking massive amounts of damage. I pop Grand Shield of Faith, it's the only ward save I have. Down here, though, in the meantime, I did wait until my demigryphs were close enough. We are springing an assault here. In come the vanilla demigryphs, demigryph halberds on their tail alongside the Empire Captain, and we are just pile driving in. Leader Reavers, Silver Helms are a joke to the power of the demigryph, and although they will do some damage here against my troops, obviously these are not the anti-large demigryphs, so this isn't an ideal engagement. I saw these are Leader Reavers. I didn't actually realize these were Silver Helms initially, but I figured screw that, let's get it on. Banishment going in down here, melching through some of this high elf archery, and actually doing quite a bit of damage, as you can see. Volkmar, in the meantime, pops his battle prayers, pops Grand Shield of Faith, Grand Hammer of Sigmar, and just piling into these spears, looking to break them quickly. Soulfire going down, and going to do quite a bit of damage there on the High Elf Scum. You can just see how much damage it does. It does like 2,000 damage there, and we are just piling through. Now my opponent is shifting his cavalry over this way. Dwellers below going down on this pocket of archery and Lothran Seaguard. So these guys on a decent amount of HP, but now Dwellers below is actually going to tear these guys up pretty bad. They're going to get dragged into the muck there. As tendrils spawn from the earth to pull those elves kicking and screaming to their dooms. But my opponent doesn't dodge there, so big misplay. He loses 1,000 or so HP, and in the meantime, the backline is crumbling. Cavalry is gone. The demigryph halberds have sprung into the backline here, compromised these bolt throwers. Volkmar is on the run, though. Now, this was some good focus fire from my opponent. Really, some withering fire there, focusing Volkmar down. I was kind of dodging back and forth to evade the bolt throwers. But Volkmar nearly died there. We do manage to squeak away just barely. In the meantime, though, the demigryph mob is pouring through, and my opponent focused so much effort into trying to kill Volkmar that now these demigryphs are in perfect shape. Over here, the Empire Captain is beating the crap out of the Mage of Light now, and Net of Mintok is going down to prevent him from killing her, but, you know, at this point, she's down to health. She's forced to flee. Swordsmen here are winning, of course, against the spears. That is what they do. Over here, the Sons of Sigmar slugging out with Elithanar. Doing quite the number on that old angry elf. While in the meantime, demigryphs have chased off the enemy cav and are swinging back in to do cleanup in Isle 9. And the thing is, even though Lothran Seaguard are anti-large, they don't really have the AP to stop demigryph knights with halberds. Like, 125 armor is just too much. And the missile play here is just not, while it's numerous, it's not enough to compromise, once again, 125 armor. It's insane. So at this point, it's just a collapsing pincer and just a massacre going down here. In the center, demigryphs swarming all over those proud High Elf soldiers and militiamen and shutting them down hard. Just a swarm of angry bird lions there just running amok. And at this stage, my opponent's army is going to shatter to army losses, resulting in a win. We can actually see here the Empire Captain alongside his noble demigryph brethren pursuing the mage as well as Elithanar. So he was forced to skedaddle there. So a brutal and very, once it actually came down to it, a very quick and fast-paced game. Obviously, at first, it was kind of a long slog because I had to clear the entire map. But once we got in, things devolved very, very rapidly. Going over the build, I honestly was pretty satisfied with it. I think, keeping in mind, Rector Ridge is not a good map for artillery because of the lumps and unevenness. Or I shouldn't say bad map for artillery, but it's a bad map for direct fire artillery. So basically all the Empire guns, except mortars. Hellstorm rocket batteries have a very flat arc, so they tend to suck as well when they're uneven terrain. But all the Empire guns are really bad there. So I think going shock heavy turned out to be a good investment, a good choice. My opponent invested a lot into cheap archery. Now this, against the more conventional Empire build, is maybe not that bad. Silver Helms will bog down something like Reichsguard quite well. You can whittle your opponent down with bolt throwers if they went for this more rush strategy. And this quantity of archers plus Elithanar focusing fire on those units can do a lot of damage. The problem with that is that demigryphs just shrug that off. And when my opponent puts so much fire into Volkmar, who's a beefcake, he's got 100 armor, he's got 15% missile resist plus Grand Shield of Faith, so 37% resist. just not able to net that damage. Now, Lithanar did some work, kind of wasted his arrows. I think he should have used his Moonbow on the Jade Wizard, try to kill him quick, deny me that healing, deny me that Welsh Blow, but use it on Volkmar instead, which was probably a mistake. No, not probably, it just was a mistake. Would have been better on literally any other unit, except maybe like Spears, in my opinion. So that was, I think, a bit of a misplay. Lithanar also wasted a lot of ammo on his swords. Now, I get that I think I was doing a pretty good job zoning him out with my zoning him away from my demigryphs, but I think Manfred here could have tried to focus more on Volkmar initially with Lithanar, because there were quite a few shots. He got 56 kills. That was all against Spears and Empire Swords, so who gives a crap about those guys? They don't matter. So, yeah, I think that was a misplay where he could have been murderizing Volkmar that whole time. And Volkmar was like one shot away from death. And Empire leadership, not the most stable thing ever, so once again, it could have caused a snowball effect, where the infantry breaks, and then the cavalry would be on their own, and that could be a bit of a disaster. But yeah, I don't think this build is particularly bad against the High Elves. The High Elves don't have too many tools to deal with this. Obviously, they can try to match you lance for lance, but demigryphs trade well with Dragon Princes. Demigryph halberds mulch everything except Fireborn, but against Fireborn, you have that Captain thrown in there to provide his buffs. You do have the Jade Wizard. You do have Volkmar the Grim, of course, providing his own series of buffs. And so I think you can swing that fight pretty handily. And obviously monsters, you can counteract them with the Demigryph Knights. And Volkmar can just kind of plow through your opponent's main line. And if you can get rid of the infantry supporting them, the monsters tend to fall apart. For my opponent's build, I think it would have been better against the wider Empire build. If it was a more static Empire build, this would have been excellent. A lot of Empire players will go very heavy on mortars, infantry, cheaper cav, and then artillery. Against that, this would probably be excellent. Like, the bolt throwers would wreck the Empire artillery, I would assume, especially with the Lithanar in the mix. And then the archers just mow down whatever infantry your opponent brought. And if your opponent just has a few Reichsguard or Knights, this is more than enough firepower to deal with a handful of those, especially with the Silverhelm support. But I think that against this sort of elite rush, or if your opponent even went for a very heavy cav rush build, I do think this build falls apart a little bit. And I'd try to get some more either anti-large or AP in there. A unit of Fireborn, obviously very expensive, but even some Dragon Princes honestly wouldn't be a bad choice, I think. Not sure how do you have to finagle it. I honestly think the Lothran Seaguard are kind of a mistake. Or maybe just this many archers is a mistake. You could like cut an archer and a Silverhelm, get a Dragon Prince in there, or get some Phoenixes in there to provide you with some AP oomph. Phoenixes aren't terrible against Demigryph Knights. If you can engage on top of your own infantry, a Phoenix, I believe, kills a model a hit, which is actually pretty darn solid. So I think maybe cutting some of these ranged units would free up space for more valuable troops. You could cut down these chevrons in the worst case and free up some space. Get some more heavy duty stuff. Get a few Phoenixes in there. Get a Sister of Averlorn in there. To be fair, I'm not sure if my opponent here, if Manfred has the DLC, because none of these are DLC units. But if you've got the DLC, you could get like a unit or two of Sisters of Averlorn. Even one unit of Sister of Averlorn could be huge. Like, as long as you can protect them, they can mulch Demigryph Knights. So that's my 2 cents there. Regardless, well played to my opponent here. Hope you guys did enjoy the video. Hope you found it entertaining and fun. As always, leave your thoughts, opinions, comments, and all that down below. I will do my best to respond as soon as I can. Do thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.